Who is the cause of the phantom laughter that echoes through this estate?
Are the previous owners, George and Edith, lingering in this mansion?
Do headless ghostly animals really roam the gardens?
Find out the answers to these questions and more as we uncover the gilded hauntings and history from Biltmore Estates in Asheville, North Carolina.
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
And this is The Haunted Atlas, a haunted U.S. podcast. In the interest of fully exploring history of certain locations, The Haunted Atlas may discuss sensitive or disturbing topics. Listener discretion is advised.
Nestled in the Blue Ridge Mountains near Asheville, North Carolina, rises a mansion so vast it feels more like a royal estate than a home. Biltmore Estate has witnessed generations of history, wealth, and loss. Some say its original residents never truly left. Today, we have the privilege of talking about the largest privately owned home in the United States, Biltmore Estates.
It's still privately owned.
Yes. Now, from the pictures that I've seen, I could have absolutely guessed that, to be honest. If somebody told me that this was like a cottage or an estate of the royal family in England, I would believe them.
Really?
It's huge. It's massive. It looks so beautiful from the front. It looks like it could have been like a fort or a castle.
Yeah, I have seen photos as well, and even the gardens, it's my understanding, are massive surrounding it.
Yes, and what I love about the gardens, I was actually going to talk about this later, but because you brought it up, Frederick Law Olmsted was actually commissioned to design the gardens around the property, and he designed Central Park. He was one of the co-designers of Central Park in New York.
Wow, that's wild that a family could privately pay the same person. I mean, I know that this was a wealthy family, but that's wild.
Yes, and so cool, and obviously like why they're so beautiful.
Right.
In 1888, when George W. Vanderbilt, heir to the Vanderbilt fortune, he was traveling through the southern states, and he ended up coming across the Blue Ridge Mountains. To put into perspective for you how beautiful these mountains are, especially like if you've never seen them, there is something in modern times that's called the Blue Ridge Parkway. And it's a national parkway. It's 469 miles long, and it goes through the Blue Ridge Mountains, with part of it actually going through the Great Smoky Mountains, which are gorgeous. I don't know if you've ever seen them or even pictures, but it's like misty above colorful trees. This parkway is basically called like America's Best to Drive.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, my knowledge of the Blue Ridge Mountains comes from the song Take Me Home Country Roads.
Oh my gosh.
But
I forgot it was in there.
Yeah, that's all that I could think of, really. But I mean, the scenic drive and the history is a much more serious way to consider it.
Yes. And so, of course, George, going through these mountains, was like, we need to move here immediately. And he bought 125,000 acres of land around Asheville.
Just pocket money, really.
Yeah. Paid Fred Olmsted to design his gardens. 125,000 acres, no big deal. The work began on the estate and construction started in 1889, but it didn't actually finish until 6 years later, 1895, which makes sense to me for how big this thing is. Mm-hmm. Now, he actually officially opened the residence on Christmas Eve, and it has got 35 bedrooms, 43 bathrooms. I'm just going to pause there for a second. 43 bathrooms. That's crazy to me.
I mean, but if you have 35 bedrooms, because how many of those are ensuite? Probably a significant portion.
True.
And then that would be 8 additional bathrooms.
You know what? You're right. I didn't even think about that. Each one probably had a bathroom.
Right. I mean, if you're going to do it, you might as well.
True. And these rooms are huge. They're very decorated. The interior design of them are just so ornate. It's beautiful. It's also got 65 fireplaces and over 4 acres of floor space.
Was there a ballroom or something there? That's a lot of acres.
That is a good question. I assume it's over the course of the bedrooms because of how big they were. What I'm thinking.
Right. I mean, 35 bedrooms is a lot.
Yes.
And even the 43 bathrooms, that's still a substantial amount of space.
Yes. Something that was surprising to me that I found out during my research, just based on the dates, George was actually single when he built this entire estate, which was surprising to me because I do feel like when we hear about these estates, it's usually built by people who are thinking about their families and just having enough space for them in their residence.
I agree. That is stranger to me for a bachelor to build this, but what a wonderful way to get a partner by being like, hey, I do in fact own a mansion. If you never want to see me, we don't have to.
I mean, honestly, what better proposal than that?
Not never seeing each other, but having a mansion.
Yeah. I meant the never seeing each other, but, you know. So he actually, honestly, I think your theory is right because he got married in 1898. So only 3 years after it was completed.
Yeah.
And they actually moved into this place. And the fact that George already had various estates across the country and they decided to move in here just kind of shows how beautiful this place is. George ended up marrying Edith Stuyvesant again in 1898, and in 1900 they had a daughter named Cornelia Stuyvesant Vanderbilt, which I thought that's a super cool name, hyphenated name, and her mom's name came first.
Yeah, I think that was pretty traditional of the time to take the mother's name as your middle name.
Oh my God, I wasn't even thinking about that as her middle name. I was thinking about it in terms of like a double last name.
Yeah, I think because families were so prominent and powerful that you wanted to have recognition for both of the families from which you came. But
Right.
I could be wrong.
Right. No, I completely agree with you. I think that makes a lot of sense.
It's wild to me that they have this giant mansion and they have one singular child.
Yes.
What are they doing with the rooms?
Well, from what I read, these rooms were themed. I think they were just meant for guests, really. I think that's what he meant them for.
Wow.
Yeah. Like actually Cornelia was born in Louis the 15th themed room, which later in the history, she has 2 children in that same room.
Oh, that's kind of cool, though.
Yeah.
I guess when you do have a house this significant, the ability to pass it down holds a lot of weight.
Yes. And she basically remained there for her entire life.
Oh, that's sweet.
I know. And then after her birth, they decided to expand the house, which when I read that, I was like, why? What are we, where? But turns out they were expanding things outside of the estate. They built a horse barn, which I can assume is for Cornelia. I think horse riding was probably a common sport thing back then. And a dairy production building. And so the dairy production building ended up bringing them a lot of income. Like the business was pretty viable.
That's what I was going to ask. So it is an external business. It's not just like dairy for the family.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. George unfortunately passed in 1914, and I did find a New York Times article about it, which I always love finding those. The article stated that the cause of death seemed to be heart weakness following an operation, and with a little more digging, the operation seemed to be an appendectomy for appendicitis.
Oh, wow.
Crazy side note here, okay? But George actually almost passed in 1912. And I just had to put this in to this history because I think this story is so interesting. So, as some historians might recall, the Titanic sunk on April 15th, 1912. And George and Edith were actually supposed to be on the Titanic. And I don't mean like, oh, they thought it would be cool and they were thinking about buying a ticket. No, they were so close to getting onto the boat. They had sent baggage ahead of them to their reserved rooms with their footmen who got onto the boat. And they ended up speaking to Edith's mother just a few days before the trip, and she pleaded with them not to get on the boat because she said you should never travel on a ship that's doing its first voyage out to sea. And so they canceled and did not get on the ship.
I literally have chills right now.
Yeah.
That's amazing
Yeah.
that her mother saved their lives. I mean, unfortunate for the footmen, but
Yes.
amazing for them.
Who did perish, unfortunately, and their baggage also went down. The footman is more important, but just as a note, their baggage also went down in the ship. So, yeah, I just thought that was so crazy that he's tied to such an important, significant event and honestly just cheated death, lived for 2 more years.
Yeah, I think at this time, it's very common for the wealthy elite to have either gone on the Titanic, had a ticket, etc. But to have avoided it is a whole different level.
And that closely, like they had reserved rooms. I feel like if I was in that position, there might have been a part of me that was like, Mom, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I already reserved the room.
Mm-hmm.
After George's passing, Edith sold 87,000 acres of the estate, and her focus was kind of conservation of the land. So she sold it at a pretty low price. According to the estate timeline from Biltmore Estate themselves, she sold it to the United States Forest Services for less than $5 an acre.
Wow. I guess when you have that much money, you really don't need more income.
Right.
And if you're passionate about conservation, why not offer it at a low price?
And honestly, that is still so much money. But really cool that by acreage, it was a pretty low price. And this plot of land eventually became Pisgah National Park, which is still around today. It's a modern park you can visit. There were actually dubious reports of a headless ghost of a murder victim.
Interesting. So maybe Edith simply wanted to offload the land.
Cornelia married in 1924, and like I said earlier, she remained in Biltmore for the entirety of her adulthood. And again, she had 2 children, one in 1925, the other in 1928, in the Louis XV room of the mansion. The mansion was kind of struggling at some point, just income-wise. That makes total sense to me, because as prices are rising, as inflation's going up, the utilities to run this place must have gone up in insane amount.
Do you know why she gave birth in the same room where she was born? Was that perhaps the birthing suite for the family, or equipped in a significant way?
I don't. I almost thought of it in my head as just a sentimentality thing. You know, she was born there. She wanted to have her kids there. I think most of the guest rooms were set up kind of the same, but especially because he was single when he was building it. That's my other thought, is like, he wasn't really thinking about his family at that point, I don't think.
Okay.
In order to generate enough income to kind of manage this property and the rising prices of the utilities, she actually opened the estate to the public in 1930. And then in 1942, so we're in World War II, the U.S. was worried that Washington, D.C. would suffer from a bombing raid. I think that was a pretty common thing. Do you remember those duck and cover videos?
Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot believe that those were shown to kids. For listeners who, I mean, I know it makes sense, but like, for listeners who don't know what we're talking about, there are these informational videos from World War II that play the song Duck and Cover, and they were shown to kids as like what to do if you see signs of a nuclear bomb coming toward.
Yeah, or even a bomb. You know, it could be anything. I think you're right. It was very common thinking about the Blitz in London. That was something the kids had to live as a reality. And our production assistant, David's grandmother, actually survived the Blitz in London.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a terrifying time.
Yeah.
Terrifying time. Because of this worry, Washington actually sent some priceless pieces of art that normally resided in Washington to Biltmore Estates for safekeeping. And the most famous one hid there was Sandro Botticelli's The Adoration of the Magi. For those who aren't huge art fans, Sandro Botticelli was also the artist who painted The Birth of Venus, which is a very famous painting.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was open to the public, it stayed open to the public. These paintings were put into what was called the music room, and the door was shut. No one was allowed in there. So people were just walking through Biltmore Estate without realizing all of these priceless pieces of art were hidden behind the door.
Oh my gosh. So many layers to this. Imagine being so well connected and wealthy that the U.S. government wants you to hold stuff for safekeeping, not worried about you doing anything with it. That's amazing. And then to have to keep it secret, it makes me wonder, were they at dinner parties like, hey, want to see something cool? You know?
I would.
Yeah, I would too.
I would absolutely have done that. In 1963, this estate was recognized as a National Historic Landmark, but not because of its history at this point, just because of its conservation of natural resources. So basically, Edith's contribution.
I love that, because it's not just about a wealthy family that built a beautiful home. It's about the fact that they cared about the planet.
I agree. And the historical significance of the building because of its family basically came later on when, history looks back at these prominent families. The building is still continually expanding. In 1985, they opened a winery on site. There was an inn that was created in 2001, and there are guest cottages. Now, these cottages were actually already built onto the site, but they were for like the gardener or the staff, other members of the staff. And these were turned into places you could stay overnight and began opening to the public in 2005. And from that year on, they kind of have opened one more, every so often.
Imagine getting to stay in such a historical space from such a different perspective, not just the perspective of the mansion. Of course, that's beautiful, but to stay in the staff headquarters previously, I think that would be a very unique experience.
Yes, and from what I've read from the Biltmore Estate's website, they do try to keep the homes very historically accurate, and so you are actually experiencing what the gardener or what the staff was experiencing back then. Biltmore Estate's history is closely tied to the original Vanderbilt Cecil family, who even in modern times take part in the management of this commanding property. And it's possible that the spirits of their ancestors are right alongside of them, still guarding the family residence.
Sheriff, we got a lot to talk about.
Welcome to Twin Peaks. I'm your Twin Peaks veteran, Special Agent Matt Hanna.
And I'm your first-time viewer, Sheriff Hannah.
And each week, we're visiting David Lynch and Mark Frost's Twin Peaks on our new show, Welcome to Twin Peaks, a Twin Peaks rewatch podcast.
Entering the town of Twin Peaks.
We're talking dreams, damn fine coffee.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
Back we're talking mysteries.
And asking the important questions like, who really killed Laura Palmer? Are the owls what they seem? And why does this town feel like a nightmare you don't want to wake up from?
It is happening again.
Whether you're a longtime Twin Peaks resident or stepping into the Black Lodge for the very first time, Welcome to Twin Peaks is your guide through the woods.
What kind of fantastic trees have you got growing around here?
New episodes every week wherever you get podcasts.
And be sure to follow our socials at Welcome to Twin Peaks Podcast for schedules and opportunities to call and write into the show.
I'm gonna turn it upside down!
The mysteries are dense and the secrets are dark.
We'll see you in Twin Peaks with a fresh cup of coffee.
With such prominent historical significance, Biltmore Estate has seen so much over the years. While collecting these memories, it seems it may have been amassing ghosts as well. The two most commonly encountered ghosts are, unsurprisingly, George and Edith. They lived there for a significant portion of their lives. This is where they had their daughter. This is their marital home. Definitely an area of significance to them. When they're seen, they are seen as full-body apparitions. But they're seen in kind of different spots. Edith is often seen roaming the hallways, not associated with any specific room, really. But George is seen also in the hallways, but also in his library, because it's said that his library was his favorite spot.
I would definitely study pictures of them if we were ever to go, just because I would be so excited to see their apparition in person.
Right, and the prominence of them wandering the halls, I wonder if that's because people aren't really in the rooms, so they're not necessarily only roaming the halls, but with not every room being open to the public, I wonder if it's just that they're commonly seen in the halls because that's where people commonly are.
And I was thinking Edith could be kind of homemaking as well. Like that could have just been part of her daily duties, is to wander and, try to take care of the home.
Absolutely. I think with an estate, you must have had your hands full trying to take care of everything. So I completely agree. Her walking by, making sure everything's in order, etc. And I do think it's pretty sweet that they're both there.
Yes. I love that for them. I'm hoping that sometimes they do get together.
Right. We see a variety of presentations for spirits, and here they're both showing up as full-body apparitions. There are theories behind how different spirits manifest, but I think showing up as a full-body apparition, they're showing their full selves. It's almost like they want to be known because they're probably pretty proud of the estate.
And because Cornelia lived there for so long after her parents' passing, they could have been there as apparitions while she was still there, and that made them more comfortable as spirits in that space, because it was a family home for a while.
That's a great point because their grandchildren are in the home as well. So perhaps they want to continue looking over them, just family in general, especially since their family are still the owners of it.
Yeah.
I had mentioned that George is often seen in the library, but interestingly, he might not be alone there. Visitors have reported voices almost as if two people are having a conversation. Now, because we know George and Edith are known to haunt the house, many assume that it's them. Edith's apparition is not seen in the library.
It could be a business meeting. I mean, if he's in the library...
That, or it could even be Cornelia.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure she spent time in there with her... I'm sure. I have no idea. I would think she would spend time in there with her father.
Right, or George's parents or a staff or a business dealing. I think it could truly be anyone, but I do enjoy the romanticized version where it's George and Edith still hanging out in the library.
I do like that because, again, that's just another space for them to be together. Maybe it's, oh my gosh, maybe it's Edith's mother. Maybe this is the moment.
The historical significance of that haunting.
Yeah, I like that idea. That's a long shot, but
But we don't know
Yeah.
because all of the reports of the voices don't detail what is said. It kind of almost is reported like whispering, where you can't really discern what people are saying.
yeah.
Continuing with the voices that are heard, there is said to be, separate from the conversation, a loud female voice that is heard calling for George. And people say that this is Edith. Again, it could be Cornelia, because I don't know that anybody knows specifically what Edith's voice sounded like. But I do think that specifically saying George would make it Edith, because Cornelia wouldn't be likely to say George. She would say Dad.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I've never called my dad.
Right. And again, of course, it could be a business dealing, it could be staff, it could be anything. But I think given that Edith haunts the space, it's a loud female voice calling for George, there's good reason to believe that it's her.
And the location makes sense. If she is wandering the halls and he's in the library, she could also be looking for him.
Oh, yeah. And then maybe it's almost like a scene playing out. They're both roaming the halls. She calls to George, and then they're conversing in the library.
You know what? What if it's an intelligent haunting and she's walking through the halls and every time he's in the library, but because it's such a big house, she feels like she has to check every room?
Oh my gosh. She's like, George, are you in the bedroom this time? Nope. George, are you in the kitchen this time? Nope. The library again. For like 100 years, it's always the library. The auditory hauntings continue throughout the rest of the mansion. In my opinion, one of the creepiest sounds is the laughter that is said to echo from empty rooms.
In this case, it might not be as creepy to me because it's a family home, so maybe it's family members enjoying time together?
That's what I was thinking. Maybe knowing the history here and the known ghosts here, I would enjoy the sound, especially how is the laugh? Like, is it a creepy laugh? Then
Right.
It's going to freak me out. But if it's truly joyful laughter, I think that could be comforting.
Right.
On the other side of the spectrum, people report hearing screaming in empty hallways. I wonder if these are residual hauntings, or George and or Edith, or another spirit. What do you think?
That's a good question. There isn't really a way for me to spin this positively. I think I'm out of ideas, which is, saying something. But screaming is terrifying. I didn't find a ton on George's death when I was doing research. That New York Times article was honestly the only thing that I could find a credible source that spoke about his death. I'm assuming he died in the home. So is it possible that that's Edith after he has passed or as he's passing?
That's a great theory. So it could be the actual spirit doing it then. Because I think the laughter is residual. But the screaming, it doesn't seem like there would be regular screaming. And the screaming is not reported as screaming of children, for example. It's like upset screaming. So I think that's a great theory. The stairs are said to be another source of auditory hauntings. Visitors have reported footsteps echoing. And that's not all, because sometimes along with the footsteps, visitors see shadow figures running up and down. So not just moving slowly or creeping, but literally running up and down. The fact that they're moving so swiftly makes me think that they aren't George or Edith, but maybe staff. However, your theory that it could be Edith screaming as or after George passes, I wonder if perhaps someone called to her. She was looking for George. Someone called to her and let her know that he was actively dying. So she decided to run to him, potentially up or down the stairs, and was screaming when that happened. And that kind of ties together all of these different things.
Yeah.
Of course, that's only one theoretical narrative, but it would make sense that all of these things are happening. They don't necessarily have to be in silo.
I do agree with you that the swift running could be staff too. I'm sure that with an estate that size, they did have to run back and forth to get things on time. I'm wondering where people are seeing the shadow figures. Are they on the stairs? Are they on the bottom of the stairs?
From what I read, it's running both up and down.
Okay, because depending on where the stairs are, there could also be shadows. I mean, stairways usually don't have windows. Sometimes they do on the landings, but depending on where people are seeing them. Because I think if you're kind of looking up at a dark staircase, that could maybe just be a trick of the light or your eyes. If you're like actively walking up and you see something dart past you, to me, that makes it more paranormal.
Yeah, I do think that's a good point, especially somewhere like Biltmore Estate that has a lot of beautiful windows and intricate decor. It's definitely possible that this is a trick of the light. And I think it's also important to know that the sound of laughter or screaming could have non-paranormal explanations. If there's a tour that's laughing, it could be echoing strangely off the walls. The screaming, not everyone. Many people are familiar with the wind whistling. So if there's any way for air to move that could sound like screaming, that could be a potential explanation for that. So I do think it's important to consider all of these things. While I do love this narrative that we've created, there definitely could be non-paranormal explanations.
Especially from a distance. I could imagine the wind whistling sounding like a scream.
Yes, absolutely. There may be other evidence that staff linger. In the servants' quarters, shadow figures are seen as well. Now, again, how are they seen? What's the light conditions, etc.? That's all important. But if we're taking it at face value that they're there, it could give more credit to the theory that the stairs are the staff running back and forth if they're also presenting as shadow figures in the servants' quarters. In addition to being seen in the servants' quarters, shadow figures are also seen near the pool. And running with this theory that it's staff, I'm wondering if this could be the house manager or maybe even a grounds person.
I agree with you. I think attributing the shadow figures to the staff makes sense to me because George and Edith are full apparitions and they were members of the family. It kind of makes sense that the staff that was there might be in the background more, so now they're presenting as shadow figures.
I had a similar theory of the staff was likely more of a be not seen or heard type thing, working behind the scenes to have the magic of the estate. So I completely agree. I think it would make sense for them to fade to the background.
I wonder if the shadow figures can connect. I've never actually asked that question about shadow figures, but if they can and the staff just gets to hang out, that might be nice.
But that would definitely add a layer to staying in one of the cottages.
Ooh, yeah, you're right.
Like you're in someone's house now.
Yes.
The pool itself is said to be a paranormal hotspot. Here, people report similar phantom laughter to what's heard in other areas of the house. It comes from the pool's drain, though.
I don't like that.
I don't either. And I was trying very hard to think of a explanation for this, and I simply can't.
Do you know in a pool when they have those, like, the jet that comes out, isn't that near the drain?
No, not always.
Okay. I feel like I remember it being that way in my grandpa's pool, and my sister and I would literally always be up on that thing.
Are you talking about the filter? Because, like, the filter's on the side and water goes in and out of it, and the jets are sometimes near that.
Yes.
But I'm talking about the drain at the bottom of the pool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Nope. I've got nothing.
Yeah, unless they're actively draining the pool, I can't think of an explanation.
No, because if someone is on the bottom of the pool, I can't imagine them laughing. That's not like a funny situation.
Along with this laughing, people report seeing the apparition of a lady in black here. There are also reports of nausea and overall nervousness. Some do say that there was a child who drowned in the pool, but there's no documentation to support that. So I have a few thoughts here. 1, if you know that there might have been a child that drowned in this pool, you could feel nauseous or nervous being there.
Yes.
Because that's terrible. 2, if a child did drown, which I'm not saying that one did because we can't substantiate the claim, the woman in black could be a mother mourning.
Yes, I agree. And I think if a child did drown here, then it's possible that the laughter is being misheard and it is actually screams.
That's a great point that I didn't consider. Or even crying.
Yes, even crying. Crying more than screams, I think, could be mistaken for laughter.
Yeah. And again, we can't say for sure if the child did drown there, but I think that is a good explanation for the lady in black. If a child did not drown here or it's unrelated, then the lady in black could be maybe a head of staff. It could be a member of the Vanderbilt family, but they are appearing as a full apparition, which makes me think that they were a prominent figure in the estate.
Right. And it could be, again, related maybe to George's death.
That's true. It could be another representation of Edith post-death.
Oh, yeah.
But the pool is an interesting place for her to appear in a full mourning gown.
I know. That's what I was trying to connect to in my head. There is no connection unless George really liked the pool.
Right. There are other overall hauntings here. There are reports of strange smells and cold spots. One of the scents reported is cigar smoke, and this happens throughout the house, but is noted specifically in stairwells. I'm highly skeptical of both of these reports, the cold spots and the cigar smoke, because we know materials can hold scents, and cold spots can happen in literally any building, let alone one that's over 100 years old. But what do you think?
There is nothing more stereotypical to me than a cigar being smoked in a mansion. I feel like that happened. It happened. We know it happened, even though we weren't there. Because it is what it is. That's just such a stereotype, and I think it's a stereotype for a reason. It's very true. So I don't know that one's paranormal because I'm sure across all of the years that people have been here, there have been cigar smoke.
Right.
Actual cigar smoke that has been trapped in the walls. And it also depends on what time, because I know like 3 or 4 a.m. was when the moisture or pressure goes up or down, and then you can smell the smoke more prominently. If it's happening midday, maybe, depending on where you are. But even then, I mean, the building is so big that I'm sure things are trapped in the walls all over the
Right. I just think of, if you've ever been in the home of a smoker, it doesn't matter if they stopped smoking 20 years ago. If they had smoked in there for 10 years straight, it still smells like smoke. So I think I can't give any credit to this being paranormal. What I can give credit to is parties in the afterlife that are said to happen here.
Oh, heck yeah.
And we know that a lot of entertaining went on here while George and Edith were alive. This was a huge estate. A lot of people frequented it. But it does seem to continue now. There are noises of glasses clinking, music, and even rowdy guests that seem to be laughing and talking and dancing. But all of these sounds come from empty rooms.
I think that makes sense because, of course, guests were staying overnight. There were so many rooms there, especially in the 3 years where George didn't have a family. This wasn't his primary residence when he was single. He would kind of come and go based on where he was visiting, what he needed to do. But I'm sure people stayed overnight just because how cool would it be to stay in an overnight mansion like this if you're friends with George Vanderbilt? So,
right.
Yeah, I think it makes sense that there's laughter across the building.
The last haunting I'm going to discuss is not inside the house, but outside. And it's not a human.
Ooh!
In the garden, there are reports of a ghostly orange cat. Now, as with a lot of places that report cats, we've covered lighthouses that have ghostly cats. There is always the possibility that it's a stray cat.
Yes.
However, this one is headless. The ghost is headless.
Yeah. No, I figured. If there was a cat that was going to be headless, orange cat makes sense to me. They're a little,
Yep.
It's orange cat behavior. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, and I didn't find anywhere any records of this specific cat, but I do think it's sweet that it's like, hey, I'm going to stay here. Like, it's really comfy here. Whether it was a stray or owned by the Vanderbilts, I like that it roams the grounds.
Right. It is. I really hope if the cat is headless, it's kind of sad to think about how it may have died.
Yep.
So I'm hoping if anything did go awry and it didn't choose to be headless in the afterlife randomly, that it was a quick death because cats are the best.
The mansion does not offer paranormal tours or investigations, but you can visit for historical tours. If you've visited, we would love to hear your stories from Biltmore Estates. Email the team at hauntedus.com and include Haunted Atlas, Biltmore Estates in the subject, or find us on social media at HauntedUS. Tune in to our next episode to see where we drop the pin on our adventure across the Haunted US. This episode of Haunted Atlas was presented and researched by Sarah Sweeney and Erica Barrett. It was supported by research from Haunted US head writer Mitch Goff, with production assistance by David Sweeney and music by Colleen Johnson. Our executive producer is Brandon Rugsey. Haunted Atlas is a production of Haunted US. Visit hauntedus.com for more information.